Hi YouTube, welcome to the Emporium Outdoors. My name is Michael and actually somewhere hanging around is Esme. As you may or may not know, I've been making YouTube videos for about 4 years now in Alberta, Canada. And I've been using equipment in varying conditions from plus 40 to minus 40 Celsius, very challenging. And I wanted to share some of the decisions I've made about my equipment over the years and hopefully give you some ideas and thoughts about how you might structure your equipment. So in the beginning, I started filming on just cell phone, which worked pretty good for the average stuff, but it soon ran into problems. I used to always struggle with audio on my videos, and that was one of the biggest challenges. So after a while, I wanted to step up the quality. So I had a Canon DSLR that I started to use, and that worked reasonably well. It was one of the cheaper, I think it's Rebel TI model, something or other. But it did have some limitations. It didn't have continuous autofocus, which basically means once the video started, the focus was fixed, and if I moved back and forth in the shot, it wouldn't actually compensate. So it wasn't automatic focus. Big problem. So I kind of soon got rid of that one. Over the other years, I've played with mirrorless cameras, had a Sony a6000 camera, and I've gone through different connotations. So what I'm trying to say is I've tried almost every different combination of cameras, and I'm just going to show you what works for me right now. So my main camera that I'm using, actually filming with now, is a Sony FDR AX53. And I've had this camera for several years now, and it's a compact video camera. It does 4K, and I've been very happy with it. I did add this front lens protector. It's a very good camera. Important things. It does have a mic input and a headphone jack, and it's also field rechargeable. So this little USB cable, I can actually charge it up while I'm out in the field. Very important feature. The batteries are pretty large. I have 2 spare batteries, and this will run for at least a good hour, I would say. In colder temperatures, maybe not as long. This has spent about 2 years outside in minus 40, plus 40, and it's worked really well. One important feature is having the flip out screen, and I can also flip it towards me as well. So when I'm actually filming myself, this is a big plus. You can also wrap it so it's on the side of the camera, but it works super well. Very simple controls. Has a SD card that's replaceable, obviously. It does have a built-in microphone, but I don't trust it at all. It's actually quite poor. There is a hot shoe underneath. So you can actually plug in accessories. There is a microphone from Sony that plugs right in here, which is an active microphone. I use this just as a cold shoe. It's worked out pretty good. It does have a zoom feature, so I can zoom in and out. I tend not to use it that much. I can also take photographs. Also has an eyepiece as well if you don't want to use the side pull-out screen. You can control the functions of the camera with this ring, so I can use this for zoom or aperture. It does have zebras, things like that. Overall, this has been the perfect camera for me. I don't get some of the better shots that I would with a different type of camera if I was using a modular camera such as a mirrorless or a DSLR, where I could change the lenses. I don't get a shallow depth of field, for instance, with this camera. It's pretty much what you see is what you get. The focus is extremely good. I've never had a problem with the focusing on this camera. It just picks you up and tracks really well. It also has optical stabilization. You can see inside the lens wobbling around, so it does stabilize quite well. Overall, it's been a fantastic camera. I can't fault the camera. It's done everything I've asked for and more, and it's held up to some pretty rugged trips that I've taken without any faults whatsoever. The only issue I've had is this cable that's frayed, but it still seems to work pretty good. There is a power input as well if you want to charge from normal 110 volt. It's very simple. It's basically open up, start to shoot, we're off to the races. Overall, I couldn't be happier. I think these retail now for somewhere around $800. I think when I picked it up it was about $1,200, something like that. So I've got all my camera equipment in this one bag, and this is a Helicon Tex Bushcraft satchel, I believe. Love this bag, comes with me everywhere. This is fully loaded as if I was going out into the Canadian backcountry ready to film. So I'll go through the bag and show you all the pieces that I carry with me and why I carry them more importantly. So let's get started. Actually, before we get into the bag, I'll start with this. So this is the main tripod I've got, and it's the Manfrotto B3, I think it is. Relatively expensive. I think it was maybe $150, something like that. I've just brought it in from the garage, so it has some moisture on it. But it's the cheaper model. This is the aluminium version. You can get a carbon fiber version, but it's a very versatile type of tripod, and it has something just called a swivel head. So it doesn't have a fluid head. I can't track with it. It's more or less put it into position and leave it. So the reason I went for this type of head as opposed to a more complex head is because I'm filming alone. There isn't many times I actually have to manipulate the camera. So this is perfect. I put it in position, I can step in front of the camera and do all the work. I can take this head off as well, so it is removable, and I could upgrade it to a different type of camera. But it is very compact, so it does fold up nicely, and this thing has been absolutely bulletproof. It's been covered in mud, it's been left in the snow, it's fallen over many times, and it's been great. The only thing, it's muddy too, the only thing, these feet tend to come loose occasionally and just have to tighten them up. So this is my primary tripod. I just set that to one side. So the reason I like this bag so much is it's so versatile. It actually holds a lot of equipment, or as little as you want. It's a shoulder bag. There's nice MOLLE straps down the side and some smaller pockets. I can actually connect things to the side as well. Has a front pouch, has a inner mesh pouch, and on the inside has pockets back and forth, actually for water bottles, but I keep all my equipment in there. So I'll just kind of jump through it, main equipment. So this is the OSMO Action cam. This is my main camera that I use for action shots. So when I'm driving around in my UTVs, or I do time lapses or slow motion, it's with this camera typically. This is a relatively new camera. I've had this for a couple of months. It's my last camera I bought. I upgraded from the Sony Action cam, the FDR 1000, I think it was, to this. The stabilization on this is excellent. So I do have a case that I've put on this so I can actually mount accessories. And I do have the optional microphone input as well. The reason why I like the DJI Action cam primarily is it has a front and rear camera, so I can flip to the front camera and then I can flip to the back as well when I'm setting things up. I use this Manfrotto small tripod as well. I think it's for cell phones and small things, and it's a ball mount that I can actually swivel around, and it works really well. I've been very happy with this. It is a 4K 60 camera, so it's 4K resolution, 60 frames per second, which is really useful. Unfortunately, my main camera, the AX53, is only a 4K 30. So the reason I like 4K 60 specifically is if I'm working with a camera like this, if I create a video in 1080p, which I tend to flick between 4K and 1080p, depending on the type of material, a 4K image contains basically 4 1080p images within it. So it allows me when I'm doing the actual video editing is to zoom in at least twice the resolution without any loss whatsoever. So if I want to track an image or do a pan in post-processing, so I'm not actually physically moving the camera, I'm just moving where the video editing software is panning. That's very important. I can do a nice smooth pan and you can never tell the difference without any loss of quality. Secondly, if I'm filming in 60 frames per second, I can half the speed again without any loss. So I can slow images down and still have no loss within the video when I come to render it. 4K works really well, I feel, most of the time, but you got to remember a lot of YouTubers that spend a lot of money on camera equipment and 8K video and all this crazy stuff, which is fantastic. However, when YouTube comes to actually pipe it down to the end user, the person watching the video, they're probably watching on a cell phone or something low quality, and the compression kind of destroys most of it. So this is the DJI OSMO Action Cam. I'll put this to one side. So this is my B-roll camera. When I say B-roll, this is the parts if I'm filming with my main camera and I want to do some fill-in pieces, I'll use this, or if I'm doing action work where I need to have a stabilized image, I'll also use this. For my third camera, I actually have the OSMO Pocket, which is a small handheld gimbal mount. So it's actually very cool for doing kind of headshot vlog type stuff. I can flip the image around. I can film myself and it will track. Good thing is I can set this up, track it in an image, and away I go. I also use this for time lapses because I can actually tell it to take a picture and over time kind of drift across, taking an image every second or so. I haven't used this as much as I thought I would, if I'm honest. Once I started using the old OSMO Action, I didn't use this as much, but I did buy all the accessories for this. So this would be my preferred B camera, and this is kind of my backup. It's small enough that I can just take it with me. This doesn't have a removable battery. This one does, so I have a spare battery. So this one I have to charge up as I'm going along. So that's my third camera. Speaking of batteries, I carry two batteries. So this is a 10,000 milliamp hour brick that I can charge cameras up, my cell phone, etc. So that's one of my batteries. My second one is actually one of those small battery boosters you can get for your car. So I actually use this as a booster for my UTVs. So I can actually plug this in and jump start a vehicle. I have used this successfully, so it does work, but obviously this is bigger than this one, but this is great multi-purpose. Also has a flashlight in it. I can charge multiple things. This is much bigger battery, obviously, but I tend not to use this if I can help it because I want to keep the charge in case I need to boost something. But I will kind of use this if the weather's not cold, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be fine. But this is essential for safety equipment. The other DJI item that I have is I carry my Mavic drone. So this is the Mavic Air, I believe. Yeah, pretty sure. Very small, very compact. It's a great drone, does 4K. I haven't used this as much as my old. I had a DJI Mavic Pro, I think, before. But this is good, has sensors front and back. I do all my drone shots with this. It's great, it's expensive for what it is. As a value perspective, this is a great to add on to your video work. But if you actually look at how much footage you get out of this compared to the other cameras that I use, it's not very good value, but it does add that extra piece of, wow, it looks great from above type shots. So it adds a bit more of a wow factor, I guess, to the videos. But I wouldn't, if you're on a budget, this would be the last thing I would buy, put it that way. And this is the controller for the... So this little box is all my spare parts for my two OSMO cameras. So this is a spare battery for the OSMO Action. These are ND filters. So it darkens the lens on this. I do find this one can't cope with very bright light well at all. So I bought these to actually darken the image, allows it to cope much better with the lighting conditions. So this is the thumb control for the OSMO Pocket. It allows me to control and pan the head. This slots on as an accessory onto the camera. Haven't used it that much. I thought I would, but I didn't. This is actually the wireless module. So this plugs into the base. Actually, let's take it out. Plugs into the base, and I can actually control it from a cell phone and do lots of other great things. This adapter on the side as well allows me to plug it into my cell phone. So something like that. Haven't really used this setup as much as I would have liked because the OSMO Action actually turned out to be better. I also have the optional microphone input as well, and I'll come to my microphone shortly. So in general, I don't trust the audio on any camera device. It's typically not good. I've never come across a camera yet that produces good quality audio. You always have to struggle with it. So I tend to always buy an audio adapter if needed. These are a complete rip-off. I have no idea why they don't build in things like the wireless controller, because it's in the Action, and also why they don't just put in a audio jack. I think it's a way to kind of leverage a bit more money from you, which is not great. But you also carry spare memory cards. I always buy the micros. I use the bigger SD adapters. With the micros, they'll fit into any camera, and I can adapt them to fit my larger camera if I need to. So I always carry a spare set of memory cards. These are just little mounting plates. This is an external cage for this thing. So I actually mount this on a tripod, which is very important because otherwise you can't. So I keep all my smaller pieces together in that bag, box. So these are knockoff Manfrotto tripod mounts. So this is a quick release plate. All my equipment has these already on there. All my tripods, different mounts. Actually don't have it on this one at the moment, but typically I would mount this like so. Then if I want to swap out, put my main camera on there, I can just clip it in and it's ready to go. So it's really good for a quick change camera mount. Like I have several of these and I keep them on most of my equipment. I'm not sure why I didn't have it on that one, but that's how that's typically set up. It's my head mount. Allows you to put a camera on your head. I think they suck. I'm probably not going to use that again. just don't really get the quality. It's too much whipping around that it's hard to see. This is my bag of cables. So within here I keep things like headphones, spare batteries, charging cables, USB cables, spare microphone cables. So this is kind of my spares bag. Yeah, it's mainly just cables. They're a pain to manage, but this actually works pretty good. I keep a set of headphones. It's actually a single mono headphone, so just single ear, that I plug into the camera. The AX53 has something very important you should look for in a camera, which is a microphone input as well as a headphone jack. It's good just to check to set up your audio so you're not going to be too loud or too quiet, to just plug the earphone in and then listen to the microphone and make sure that there isn't any problems with it. If you can't monitor your own audio, it can be an issue. I don't do it as much as I used to anymore because I'm pretty comfortable with the equipment I have. I've used it for so long, I know it just works. So that's that. This is a pretty new piece of equipment. So this is an aperture small pocket light. I was struggling with lighting recently. So this is a, let's switch that on. Small light. You can change the brightness. This is the AL-M9. It allows you to take the front off, and you can actually put different filters on the front. This is just a basic diffuser. I was struggling a little bit with lighting recently, so I picked this up. I can also mount this. To a camera, so hopefully you can see that. So for instance, I could put that on the top and away I go. Comes with some different colored gels as well, so you can actually filter it. It's very simple. It seems to work really well. You got to be careful with lighting. Cheaper LED lighting, for instance, doesn't dim correctly. It uses a different type of dimming. On some cameras, you'll see if the LED is not really built for videography, or you'll get a strobing effect, and it's the way they control the LEDs. They turn them on and off to dim the levels rather than actually just dimming the power going to them. So the cheaper ones don't work very well. This is designed for videography work, so I can set it to different levels and it works really well. This is a really cheap selfie stick that I use. It just has a ball mount on the top, but I can extend it out quite a long ways. This is really cool if I'm going super lightweight, because what I can do and a lot of the shots that you see where I'm driving along in my UTV somewhere in the snow, this is actually what I use. So I will set this up. Like that, and I can actually extend it to almost a full-size tripod. It's not going to be great because it's going to be a bit wobbly, but for a static shot where you just need to set it, it's good to go. It's perfect. Like I say, if it's in the snow, I'll just jam it in the snow, which will hold it pretty stable, and then I can actually move it around using the base as well if I need to just make adjustments. This is part of my lightweight equipment. If I'm not carrying my big tripod, I'm just going out for a day and it's very easy stuff, then this is what I actually use as my main tripod. Here I have some more charging cables. These are ones I use regularly, so it's for my iPhone and just a small micro. I just keep these in here. This is a small cheap clip. I can't even remember where I bought it. This mount is for the OSMO Pocket. So this is a DJI version of the mount. Allows me to clip that thing in to here, and I can actually rotate this clip. Right, I can clip it onto a shirt or a jacket or onto a tree, anything like that. So it's a typical action cam type mount, but I find this works really well. Clips pretty strong, and it's really simple and easy to use. So moving on to audio, I struggled for many years when I first started making videos on getting consistent audio. It would just be a complete nightmare. I was using the wrong equipment. I was doing it all wrong, basically. What changed it for me was actually buying some correct audio equipment. I actually bought the mic that you can see now, which is the Rode Filmmaker kit, I think it is. It's a remote mic. So you have a mic pack like this one, and there's a receiver on the camera itself which plugs in. Works really well. The microphone's actually very good quality. I actually have the fuzzy piece on, which you would normally use for wind, but I kind of want to make it stand out so you could see I was using a remote mic or lavalier mic. After I started using this, it worked much better. Before this, I had the Sony Bluetooth microphone. It was hit and miss. It was okay, but the quality of this was actually way superior. This is around $500 for this remote mic setup, so it's kind of expensive for what it is, but it did help with the audio. You do have to monitor the batteries, because you have to replace 2 AA batteries in each device. There is a monitor on the receiver itself, so you can monitor those, but it will run for probably a full day and then some before you have to change out the batteries. But if you lose the batteries, you lose your audio. So that's something to bear in mind. I did buy this afterwards, which has been absolutely fantastic. If I can get this off, there we go. So this is a Rode Micro. I think it's the Rode Video Micro or something like that. It's a very small microphone. It's not powered, so it doesn't have any battery power. It just works directly by plugging into the camera. And this has been exceptional. More or less all the audio you hear on my videos is done through this. This is called a windbreak or dead cat or whichever, which really cuts down the wind noise, and I normally keep that connected. This really changed the way I made videos. Because there are no batteries, I know if it's plugged in and I can see the meter moving on my camera because I monitor the audio, then I know it's working. So this was reliable. I know with my camera set up with the way it is, the correct levels for the audio, I'll get consistent audio from this. And if I have to play with it in post, I can do. And this has been exceptional. I think this is around $70 or $80, but this would be one of my top pieces of equipment that I would certainly invest in if I was starting out again. This, I wish I'd skipped to this, to be honest. It would have saved me a lot of expense and trouble. So this is actually fantastic. So I recently picked up a new microphone setup for using outdoors. This is the Rode Wireless Go. So I can just show you. So there's two components to it, but this you can see the transmitter. So it's considerably smaller. It also has a microphone built into it on this edge, and it also allows you to put a microphone in here with a 3.5mm jack, which is very, very cool. This is the receiver part, which actually goes on the camera, and obviously just a 3.5mm cable. There is a clip-on wind screen. It goes onto it, and you can just clip this on your shirt, or you can actually hide it quite well, like so. So the reason I actually went to this was two reasons. It's about half the price of this setup, the one I had before, and also it's rechargeable. So I can actually charge this up in the field. It's a USB Type-C connector, and I can charge them up. I think they run for a good amount of time. I think it's 8 hours plus. It's very, very small, which I like. Plus, for instance, if I want to use this on a small action type camera, it's built in such a way that I can have it all rigged up very easily. So the actual clips themselves will actually go into a hot shoe, which is genius. It's very small, it's very easy to use, and I've been very, very happy with it so far. The quality is great. With the addition as well of being able to put in an external microphone to this device, it really is quite impressive. You can have a very high-end microphone plugged into this. It doesn't have to be a lavalier type, it could be any type. So for instance, you could, if you wished, if you want to have a remote microphone set up somewhere else to capture audio, or you're running a different camera, you could capture audio from a remote location just using this setup. So very, very versatile. I like it very much. It is a new product, so it wasn't available when I started collecting all my equipment. So that gives you an idea. So I think that's everything out of my bag. So this is my complete audio video setup that I've been using for the last few years. There are some new additions obviously, but it represents an evolution over the 4 years that I've been making videos. So there is one piece of equipment that I haven't shown you yet, which is probably more important than all of these put together. And this is my iPhone. This is an 11 Pro Max, has 256 gigs of storage, I think. But I use this for all my still photography, B-roll. I've been doing some night capture stuff. It's an amazing piece of equipment, but incredibly expensive for what it is. It does everything. Obviously, I can make calls with it. I can review video footage. I can control other cameras with it. It's just a phenomenal piece of equipment. So this does many, many different things. It's my safety device, it's my maps. It's quite incredible for what it is, and probably hence the price. So this is extremely important to me. The film that I can get out of this, the video that I can get out from this, is comparable. Obviously it doesn't have the stabilization of the Action Cam. Do I really want to like strap this to the front of my UTV doing 50, 60 kilometers an hour? Probably not. It's not as durable as these devices, and these are a fraction of the cost in relation. But I can do a lot with this. I do have another mount that I use, and I can actually put this on a tripod. So again, you'll see some of the footage that I have is actually straight from my iPhone. So if I had to distill down all my lessons I've learned making over 200 videos over the last 4 years, what would that be? I think it would boil down to 3 simple things. The camera is not that important. It's really what you capture with the camera. I could do all my videos on this higher end cell phone. It's really, people are very tolerant of somewhat poor videography. It's nice to have a drone, but if the main content kind of sucks, then you're not really going to get very far. Number 2, audio is more important than video in some cases. If the audio is poor, I won't watch a video. It annoys me so much to the point it's just, okay, I'm done. Even if the video is interesting, if the audio is bad, I quit, and most people tend to. So audio is actually very important. If you have a shaky video but the audio is good and people can kind of listen along, it will drag them through the poor sections of that video. So I would invest in at least something like a good cheap microphone. You can spend a lot more than this, but I really like the Rode Micro. And I guess the third lesson is it's got to be convenient. If the equipment takes too long to set up, or it's a hassle to get it out, get it moving along, assemble things, I typically don't use it. So it's quick and easy. I can grab this, I can click go on it. If I hit record, it'll start recording immediately. This is great. I can grab it, I can capture something. That's what I'm going to reach for every time. If it takes time to set up, I've got to, take the drone out, flip the legs out. The moment's gone. I have to plan those shots so it's less instantaneous. So I tend to not use them as often as I would. If I could just have a thing I could throw up in the air and it just flew off and took pictures, I'd use it all the time. But if it does take time to set up and plan, I don't bother using it. So convenience is my big third lesson. I guess if I had a fourth lesson, it would be try and get rechargeable equipment. Batteries tend to be expensive. They're great to have a couple of batteries so you can actually flip them if you're in the middle of shooting, but to carry like 6 or 7 batteries is not really cost effective, and they're all going to suffer from the same problem, which is, especially if you film in the cold, they're not going to last very long at all. So I tend to just have 2 batteries for most of my devices and carry charging equipment. I can keep the batteries in my pocket and the chargers close to my body where it keeps them warm, so I can keep topping them up. There's nothing worse than having something you can't replace the batteries on. Like this, for instance, this is one of the weaknesses. If this goes flat, I have to plug it in, charge it up. I can't just change a battery and keep filming. So it's kind of a weakness. Everything I have, I can charge in the field apart from the drone. That's the only one I can't actually do. And the fifth thing is to have some sort of plan around how you want the video to run. I tend to run a little bit of formula when I do my outdoor videos. That's a plus and a minus. But when you're doing kind of outdoor camping stuff, I try and vary the equipment, the location, things like that. But the actual format of the video itself is relatively the same. It's not so many different ways you can actually go to somewhere, set up a camp, do some cooking. You try and vary it as much as possible, but effectively you're doing the same thing. But the scenery is changing, the equipment's changing, but the activity is relatively similar. I do other videos where I make things, I try and break it up. I do videos like this, for instance, if I think it's going to be of interest to people. But I try and have some sort of blocked out idea of what I want to film from the get-go. I went through stages of just like, hey, I'll just grab a camera and go, and I would just come back with a bunch of disjointed video clips that I couldn't really make anything from. So I guess the fifth rule is to have even just a couple of ideas that you can put together. Have a look at other people's videos that you enjoy, see how they structure them. I've learned probably everything from watching other people and just developing my style by trying some things, trying different things, and getting to a style that I'm comfortable in. So that kind of wraps up the video. I hope you found it useful. If you do have any comments or suggestions or questions, leave me a comment down below and I'll get back to you if I can. So until next time, take care. And as always, thank you very much for watching. If you like my videos, leave me a comment, maybe a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe.